And the rose in the paddock and the sugar's good. Little boy Stephen, the gems on the moon. When you're coming home, Greg, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. Greg, you'll know we'll have a good fry then.
There's been a bit of discourse this summer about the ultimate rock lover. A bit of back and forth about after f***ing in a space rock and f***ing her space dictator cunt and b***ing her good and making her out of her whether or not he did a good job with the outcome. Frankly, I've been looking for an excuse to talk about Steven Universe Future because that show reframed a lot about Steven and Greg, kind of spoon-feeding the audience a bit about how to look back at and how to feel about Steven Universe, which is something a lot of fans criticise Steven Universe Future for. I liked it though, but it also helped highlight how questionable Greg is as a father.
Good, no one's home. Wait, what?
Hey, y'all. Greg is taking me to a show. Greg.
Holy I came as fast as I could.
You're welcome, Greg.
If I were you, I'd hate me too.
The man is arrested under suspicion of behaving rather strangely.
So join me as I go through each of the CPS-worthy crimes committed against Steven by Greg and show you them in the context of the show. But first, are you losing sleep about your privacy online? Well, I'm not, because I use Manta Sleep. They sent me this lush silk sleep mask with cooling eye cups as a separate little bonus. So if you suffer from migraines or just from being too hot and moist, this will really help you. And as a violent side sleeper, I can verify that this mask has great pronat movement as well as providing nighttime comfort, and is extra comfortable no matter what position you're in or how much you throw yourself around when you're a snooze. With a Manta sleep mask, you'll sleep through anything.
Oh my god, they hit the second tower! Wake up! Wake up! Oh, it's over! Wake up, what are you doing? Wake up!
It's easily adjustable, even for us curly-haired girlies. If it fits over my massive head, it will fit over yours. Your afro is no barrier. It's been extra useful this summer because I usually wake up with the sun, and sunrise has been hitting the UK at 4:05 AM recently. There is no good reason to be waking up at that time. Manta Sleep has rescued me from this dire fate. If that all sounds good to you already, then how about 10% off with my affiliate code on the Manta Sleep website? I knew you'd like that. The link is on screen and down in the description. And now, back to the video.
Discord! I'm howling at the moon and sleeping in the middle of a summer's afternoon. Discord! Whatever they do.
First on our list is whining.
Don't worry about your old man. My leg's not getting any more broken.
Now, Greg, there's no need to be so pathetic.
No, I'm kidding. It should be a crime though.
Oh yeah. Oh, ouch.
Having no game plan. There's been so much Greg defense along the lines of, it's all understandable really, and I wish my dad was like him, and that's just not correct, is it? In line 3, Return to Video, Steven discovers a tape in which Rose and Greg both address their unborn child, and Rose explains that once Steven is born, she will cease to exist. Greg is therefore aware of this.
Oh my gosh. I never thought I'd see this again.
I take this line to mean that he's seen the tape before, and presumably knew what he was being filmed for. So even if he wasn't aware when he initially, busted a nut.
We jizz in the
Gems.
and that's what makes
Steven!
Well, where do I jizz?
He was aware for some portion of the pregnancy about single parenthood being on the horizon. So why did he seemingly have no game plan?
I've had orgasms! I've had tons of orgasms! I've had one with your mom, dude!
I know Greg's whole deal is that he's an older rock star, a starving artist,
You have snatched the bread from my starving mouth.
and that comes with a little hippy-dippy living for the road mindset. But as Vidalia points out, you can't do that when you're a parent.
You sold out, V.
Gotta grow up sometime.
Children need you to anticipate their basic needs, including when they have additional needs, which, in a sense, being half alien, Steven does. Greg also knows that Rose isn't a human. He's painfully aware of this, actually, and it's the source of their first major apparent conflict, in what I think was quite a nice episode.
Oh boy. This is so weird. You really are an alien.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Why are you crying?
But even then, he was also aware that she was the more socially adept out of the crew.
Oh, I really like your
Asshole!
amethyst. Leave him.
And I don't think it's wise to just start this journey of parenthood without making plans to sign him up for nursery, school, and also to make a contingency plan for his gem powers should they arise and complicate things a la Powerpuff Girls. Besides, he already knew that Rose's parenting skills were lacking.
Isn't this exciting? This'll be a formative experience.
And she wouldn't be one to make rational decisions for a humanish baby in a crisis, even if she was going to be around.
One more thing. Bye-bye, bitch.
On the note of gem powers and parenting skills though, making the gems parent. As soon as Steven started exhibiting gem powers, Greg figures that it's a good shout to fully hand him over to the gems. But why though? Greg already knew that the gems weren't exactly equipped to deal with the complexities of human growth.
You wouldn't believe how long it took me to figure out that this and you are the same thing.
Those would make some pretty good lyrics.
And he even has a conversation with them about this in 3 Gems and a Baby. They don't even know what a baby is.
She just can't reform because she has this baby around her. We'll be together again.
They gift him car keys, adult nappies, and a dictionary. If they're that clueless about child rearing, why would you trust that they'd just pick it up eventually and hand over sole custody? Around the time Greg met Rose, the Gems, as I've mentioned, were barely aware of what humans were and how their societies worked. A large portion of Steven Universe as a show revolves around all of these aliens being light years from home and not understanding human social norms.
Are you my dad? I need to find my dad.
Art, or technology. A good example of this is Peridot. Maybe she didn't rate Greg's parenting either. While there is undoubtedly a lot that the Gems teach Steven throughout the show that Greg couldn't, he also needed a human family. Say, I don't know, like the DeMeo family. In Gem Harvest, Steven learns a bit about his human family beyond Greg when Andy DeMeo turns up and interrupts everyone's favourite Technicolor Yuri.
I know what you are.
In this little interaction, we learn why Rebecca Sugar probably shouldn't write political satire of any kind.
You're hippies! I heard about you on AM radio. What are you doing coming in here socializing this fine American bond?
And also that Greg cut ties with his family, the DeMeos. We also learn that Greg offered up DeMeo family property as though it were just his own.
Who told you you could move in here and mess this whole place up?
I did, Andy.
You did? This is my parents' barn!
No. He's got a point.
Even though from what Andy says, it sounds like it's more a communal family asset, even if no one's used it in ages. I mean, that's not a crime against Steven, but it's a bit of a dick move.
Well, my family spent a lot of time here too. Once a year we'd all meet up here, catch up, eat a big meal, have a good time.
In Gem Harvest, Steven doesn't really express any reaction to all of this beyond, oh wow, cool! Which is par for the course with Steven, it's one of his 2 modes. You know what the other one is. But in future, this gets a reframing, because we learn that this has kind of been on his mind. Lovely, understanding kid he is, and with his own perspective.
The only thing I get from my mom's side of the family is stressed out.
Same.
I guess he assumed that Greg cut off his family for a good reason too.
What? You couldn't even marry an American?
What does that matter?
But then we get to the episode Mr. Universe, and the only trauma we get any indication of isn't trauma at all.
You didn't like meatloaf?
Not every Thursday for 20 years.
Oh, it couldn't have been that bad.
Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes. When the night is over, like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone, gone. Like a bat out of hell, I'll be gone when the morning comes.
Steven, it was horrible.
Are you serious?
It's a frosty upbringing where he wasn't supported in what he wanted to do, which isn't good, but I don't think it calls for not at least giving Steven the option to meet them.
What's a DeMeo?
Going no contact on your son's behalf is something I think should only be done if you don't think he'd be safe, and this seems more like a bratty tantrum on Greg's part than anything else.
We were in mathletes together. It's just one of the million things my parents made me do.
Grace got PTSD or whatever, post-traumatic Down syndrome.
I mean, one of his major complaints is that they ate the same food too much and went to the same destination on holiday too often. Stephen is understandably angry, but a little dismissive towards how oppressive, unsupportive parents could feel.
Oh no, is that my graduation photo? They made me cut it, and it was right before a gig.
But yeah, hiding the whole DeMeo family until forced to share something doesn't seem proportional at all to what Greg complains about.
I'm sorry we took over the barn. I didn't even know we had any other family to share it with.
You didn't, huh? You can't!
And really unfair to Stephen, given that they just seemed frosty at worst. He's also a strong enough character in the series to be able to discern the good or bad will of these people for one, and it's his family too. That being said, I'm not forgetting that Greg's parents left all those letters unopened. If it weren't for this line in Gem Harvest...
How was I supposed to? I haven't seen you in years!
And whose fault is that?
That was like 2 decades ago!
It might have been possible that Greg had made some attempt to actually rock up and tell them about the pregnancy, or later to introduce Stephen after he'd been born, but it sounds like he sent letters upon letters and then, at some point, presumably just gave up. I mean, there aren't that many in here. It'd be nice if his parents deigned to check how their son was doing, and as much as he didn't visit them, they also didn't visit him, despite having his address. Not to defend Greg's parents necessarily, but there's also a lot of reasons these letters might have gone unopened. We only hear Greg's side of the story. Maybe him packing up and driving away like this tore apart the family.
You turned your back on your family just so you could get in with a bunch of weirdo hippie Martian immigrants?
No, he's got a point.
And it's too sore a wound to want to hear his excuses and doe-eyed daydreaming.
This is the CD with the song that made me who I am. Hold on to your butt, Stephen.
Somebody stop me, I'm stuck in the chair. How diggity Lois should make more sons of the man. I'll Jim carry yours out the door, you bitch. I'm the best green guy he's played since the Grunge, yeah.
Again, in Gem Harvest, we learn that there used to be family gatherings at the barn. It seems to me like the DeMeo family are wealthy enough, with Greg's parents' house and Andy owning a plane. Flight school's expensive.
You're throwing off my balance! You gotta bring us forward!
But they don't seem forget about an entire seaside property kind of rich, you know? Maybe after Greg cut ties, nobody wanted to meet up anymore, feeling like Greg's absence left a hole, something Greg would never do.
You know, I really shouldn't be here, but I'm glad I came back.
The old universe charm.
He doesn't talk about the impact his actions left on the family at all, even if he bitches about his parents. We can only speculate on that, of course, but what's undeniable is that Greg's choices, which I think are not totally called for, led to Stephen never meeting his human family. But it's not just the lack of connection to the DeMeos that upsets Stephen so badly. He sees the meticulously organized life his grandparents built for Greg and starts getting angry about something else, too. Providing no structure. In Steven Universe Future, one of the core internal conflicts that arises is that Steven doesn't have a concept of normal. This is explicitly attributed to all of the trauma he's experienced, which, yeah, fair enough. But something he cites often is how he doesn't know how to even approximate normal if there isn't a crisis for him to solve.
We've always had something to fix together. The cluster, the diamonds, or Spinel. I don't think I know how to be a friend without something to fix.
This sense of always waiting for the other shoe to drop is a well-known symptom of PTSD and CPTSD. While it wouldn't cure his condition by any means, having a stable baseline in life certainly wouldn't hurt his mental recovery. Steven has never been to school to socialize with other kids, and therefore has this very speedrun arc in Future where he stresses about not being able to relate to humans. This is resolved with him learning that he can just lean on Connie's presence forever, which is healthy.
Connie, will you marry me?
You only care about yourself. Don't call me. Don't come by my house. We're done.
And turns out about as well as you'd expect. As Dr. Maheshwaran points out, he's never even been to a doctor either. Yet, during her career, the gems deigned to take themselves in for scientific observation, and didn't bother taking Stephen, I guess? I suppose Dr. Maheshwaran figured Stephen was already seeing a doctor, you know, because he has a living human dad who should know to take his kid for a checkup like a person. Going to school and checking on your physical and mental health are essential experiences. Greg seems to have really overestimated how non-human Stephen is, despite the fact that he can suffer hay fever. And feel pain and grow just like a regular boy, even if at a slightly inconsistent rate.
I need to reverse this! I need a reverse birthday. The king costume. Will you help me into my birthday suit?
Well, well.
And while understandable that he wouldn't be able to give you an exact idea of how human Stephen is, what's not understandable is that he takes the prospect that Stephen isn't going to be a human and uses it to dip from all real responsibility. While it doesn't seem like he's trying to be a deadbeat dad, that's ultimately what he is in the original show. He lets the gems do their part in raising Stephen as a gem, but doesn't do his for some reason in raising Stephen as a human. Like, say, facilitating his contact with other kids, or even signing him up for standardized exams that he could take with homeschooling, which would let him make university applications. Human academia? Standardized exams? Pearl would be all over that shit if Greg set that up for Stephen to begin with. But it gets worse in future. Greg won't even provide structure as a parent in conversation. Stephen is practically begging for Greg to be a parent in this whole scene, up until he crashes the van. He wants him to react like the normal human relative he wishes he had, the anchor to humanity he needs, among other things. But Greg responds to Stephen's crash out with a parody of gentle parenting.
I'm proud of you.
What?
You know, I never had the guts to tell my old man off like that.
Which only further upsets Stephen. It's so obviously not okay. You shouldn't be proud of and reward your child for almost killing you both. And in the context of Stephen here being haunted by the concept of being able to harm and kill and destroy, only for everything to be played off as fine afterwards, this is the last thing he needed to hear.
The van seemed worse. We'll all get through this.
And he's already talked to Greg about this.
Just wish I knew what to do with myself.
This also just isn't a normal reaction at all, and feels very forced on Greg's part, like he's trying hard to be contrary to how his parents might react, having heard about them earlier in the episode. Like I said, Greg could have been killed. For all Greg knows, not really understanding gem anatomy, Stephen could have been killed. I don't know about you, but the adrenaline in me would have brought out some kind of shock reaction. Instead, Greg just, yeah, no shit. There's a thought actually. In this moment, is Greg perhaps scared of Stephen? His free love vibe reaction is still in character, but to be generous, maybe that fear is a factor as to why he responds so weirdly here. What's frustrating about Greg's lack of structure is that it's all behind this quirk-chungus cool dad veneer. He's definitely the kind of guy to post on Instagram about how his borderline estranged son is his best friend. There's a more succinct way to put that though. Immaturity. Greg being immature isn't actually a mark against him in and of itself, and his immaturity comes through a lot.
Oh man, I am a baby.
That can be fine. You can be silly, even a bit stunted emotionally, and still be a solid parent. You don't have to be perfect. In Mr. Greg in the original show, Stephen exhibits greater maturity than either Greg or Pearl in a musical number where he reminds them that their love rivalry is past, and they're united now in being parental figures to Stephen. And that's fine. I think it made for an interesting and actually touching plot, especially if you've ever had a loss in your life that's torn apart the community around you. One of Dee Dee Magno-Hall's best vocal performances in the show is just a bonus. But it's less understandable when he, say, pretends to have a broken leg, tearing Stephen away from apocalyptic threats that could destroy the Earth just so he can hang out with him.
Ah! Dad needs me! I'll be right back! Dad, I'm here! Is everything—
Hey, Stephen! Just making sure this thing actually works.
Or, you know, when he doesn't give Stephen an education and lets him run off to deal with apocalyptic threats despite repeated injuries, imprisonments, and other perils. That's pretty immature too. But his immaturity does underpin all of the stuff we've talked about already. He wouldn't act this way if he had his act together a little bit and grew up some. The reason I talk about this at all isn't just because I'm the #1 Greg hater, which I am. I even like Ronaldo, but whoa, sorry, whoa. Almost said something crazy there. Now, I realized something whilst browsing defenses of Greg and the way he's presented in the original show especially. He's a real guy. His relationship to family, tradition, and responsibility seem to be really relatable to a lot of the people who watch Steven Universe still, and the people who most ardently defend him. And maybe that's not surprising. While not true of everyone who enjoys Steven Universe, with tween animated shows right now, there's always a contingent who only watch kids and tweens shows and engage with no adult media at all. That doesn't make them bad people, but it may explain finding Greg's severe immaturity relatable. But it's not just the audience, it's the writers too. Consider how they portray Connie's mother, Dr. Maheshwaran, as totally unreasonable and needing to let her daughter be herself.
A sword? Connie, where did you get this? A sword?
Gosh, just let your young child be without you, unsupervised in a household with no human adults and dangerous weapons. Get with the times, Mum! Usually, over time, you learn that tradition and habit should be scrutinized, but are often there for a reason, like going to the doctor for a checkup or going to school. There are bad things about both experiences, and it's natural to go through a phase of fixating on that after a childhood, seeing the world with innocent glee and just doing as you're told. But then you're supposed to gradually learn to think critically about these things and act in a level-headed way, rather than being mindlessly positive and obedient, or mindlessly negative and belligerent. You're supposed to learn through this to act in a level-headed way in your best interests. Greg doesn't do this. Certain contemporary groups talk a lot about, I hate this phrase, living your truth, and just cutting out people who don't praise or actively enable that, and people like Greg are the natural result. Rootless, isolated, unambitious, and a bit whiny. I'm not saying there's a single right way to live. It's totally fine if Greg wants to live in a van and run a car wash and eat the little he can afford. That may be ambition for him. That's fine. It's also fine if Greg wants to raise a child in a van whilst running a car wash and living in poverty.
First off, I am 35 years old. I am divorced, and I live in a van down by the
car wash.
Not the best situation, but not reprehensible. But because he hated school and structure and his parents setting goals for him, he decides to do the complete opposite for Stephen. Rather than, for instance, not forcing Stephen into or out of a hobby the way his parents did, he decides that the rational antithesis to this is to not give Stephen any cues for life at all, beyond teaching him how to play the guitar.
Just wish I knew what to do with myself.
He sets no expectations, but in doing so, fails to teach Stephen how to set any expectations for himself. And so Stephen in future is adrift and lashing out partly because of that. Live your truth and follow your heart is all fine, and the quirky chungussy outcomes are all very well and good, if sometimes a bit depressing. But when a child is in the picture, you're no longer living just for yourself. Because he's so deep in the delusions that making mum and dad sad equals good, he can't see that he's not parenting Stephen. He's trying to make a friend. That's not what you do with your child. Here, let a gorilla tell you.
My son and I work better as friends. I'm sure you do. Friends don't have to worry about discipline or setting an example. It's easy to be a friend. That's why kids have lots of them.
You can be friends with your parents, but not until you've grown up and created a life of your own and no longer rely on parents to give you structure. And even then, your parents won't be friends with you exactly the same way your peers will be. You'll always be looking up to them, and in your mind, they'll always be, well, your parents. It's not a lesser bond, it's just different. Maybe it's even greater than normal friendship. Sorry, I hit puberty there. In the end, Greg wasn't there for Stephen's upbringing, something he rues himself, but has the ability to change.
No! I didn't mean for... I just wanted to live with my son again!
He wasn't there as a parent, instead taking on a friendly mentor kind of role, and he wasn't bearing Stephen in mind when he made choices later in life, contributing to an older Stephen feeling adrift and unsupported. Dr. Maheshwaran and Greg's parents are meant to represent authority figures that are too strict and who need to learn to let go a bit, but in portraying their very reasonable behaviour as abusive and restrictive, the Crooniverse kind of lets its own misguided perspectives on how to be responsible come through. Even if you think Dr. Maheshwaran and Mr. and Mrs. DeMeo are too much, Greg is right the other end of the spectrum, and that's not good either. Sure, don't forcibly shave your kid's head, but also don't let them shatter their skull either. He's a terrible father who seems to think emotional openness is where parenting starts and ends.
Greg is nice, Stephen.
This feels familiar.
But that's all I have to say on Greg. It's safe to say the old universe charm didn't work on me, but then again, I'm not a pretty pink space dictator, so maybe it's just not for me. What do you think? Leave your comments down below. I always love to read them, and if you're still here, thank you so much. Love ya.
Bye-bye!
We are the Crystal Gems.
And I am Greg Universe. I'll always find a way. And if you think I can't, I'll end your life with my dong. That's why gems of homeworld fear my riz, my lethal jizz, and my thick Jewish murder cock. Oh yeah! Rev up those engines, the car wash is closing early tonight, Stephen. I'll pulverize peridot, I'll ass blast amethyst, I'll make garnet goon, and I'll piss on pearl. I'll DP white diamond while lapis gets lewd. Bismuth will get her muff stuffed. The rubies will be at the orgies, while I jerk off Jasper, shoot a mayo on Spinel, and Lost licks my ass. Sorry, Sadie, no fatties. Greg and his murder cock. I'll save the universe while I get my rocks off. Get it, Stephen? And it's all good fun. I do it for my son. A perfect father I'll never be, but I'll save our world, just wait and see. Oh, and Stephen,